You just got a 1-star review. You're probably really sad, but don't be. We don't learn anything when things are going well. We're going to help you deal with that mentally, but then what we're really going to do at the end of the video is teach you how you can turn that 1-star into a 5-star and a lifelong customer. Hey, I'm Brian LaFauci. Welcome back to Blunt Force Business.
I'm in the middle of getting myself some coffee.
This is Patrick Marino.
Hi everybody.
And today we are going to talk to you about how to pour coffee so demure. No, really, how? No, we're not.
Am I pouring it demurely?
Very demure. So respectful.
This doesn't go on that.
So respectful.
Come on.
Don't drink in the morning, kids. So, what are we talking to them about today, Patrick?
We're talking about how to turn a loss into a win.
How to turn a loss into a win. How to turn a 1-star Google review into your best customer.
Or any complaint.
Or any complaint.
Right. Just a complaint.
Exactly. A call in.
Customer complaint.
Turning around customer complaints. We get them, what to do with them. Blunt force fact for today is you don't learn anything when you're winning.
We're going to try and turn that loss into a win. So it's an opportunity. You could look at this as an opportunity to improve and grow. Right?
Yeah. And I say this to my children all the time. I'm like, listen, I know that you just had this hard thing happen and it feels like it sucks. It's actually the best. It's the best because you're going to have an opportunity to learn and grow. And then when they look back on it, they usually look back on it with kind of reverence of like, I learned a lot.
It's like in Batman, isn't it? Like, why do we fall? So we can get back up.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. I was doing a business startup class yesterday, and I ended it with the Rocky Balboa, where he's talking to his son about how life hits hard. And it's great.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Maybe you'll put that video in here.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, good.
I don't think we're going to be doing that. But I do think that this is what I deal with. So I don't get very many complaints for myself because I do good work. No, but I do deal with a lot of small companies where the business owner started the business and like is maybe even the main person who actually does the thing, right? And the complaint usually generates a very, very passionate response, right? The freaking guy didn't know what he was talking about. Like, we got in there, we did everything we could. You know what I mean? We did a good job. You know, like I had one, I work with a chiropractor. This is recent. I work with a chiropractor, and this isn't about the bad way of dealing with it. I had a chiropractor where it was a 3-star review and everything went well, except she was upset that they treated her as a new client even though she'd been before. And the chiropractic office is a very explicit policy. It's like, you haven't been here in a certain amount of time, then like you're basically treated as a new person because like we haven't seen you, we can't evaluate you.
Forms.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a lot of paperwork, I imagine.
So she was like, "Oh, they did a great." Well, not just that. I think it's just like the evaluation. I mean, you could be a different person.
Yeah,
3 years from now than you were. You know, whatever. So she was upset about that, but she took stars off of the review because of that. So it's glowing, kind of almost a glowing review. I love them; they're great, but so I took like. But what happens is the person who owns the company is just like. Has all this, you know what I mean? This
right.
Piss and vinegar.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like ready to address that complaint in the worst possible way.
One of the worst ones that I've ever experienced as a business owner was in our sport. And there's two. Was in our sport complex. One of them was an individual who was an adult playing in our adult league and ended up getting in like a fight, and our policy was if you got in a physical altercation, you're out.
Yeah.
Like you're out for a minimum a year, and if you want to come back here to meet with our right. So we kicked this person out. They proceeded to go on and did not mention they got kicked out, obviously, right? Yeah. But then trashed us and proceeded to call all of our referees and our ownership racist, which is something you can which is something that you can just drop and then you got to deal with it. Right. It's like, here's this pile of shit, right?
Yeah.
It's one of those, there's certain things you can say and now all of a sudden you're kind of forced to, well, maybe you think you're forced to defend. So that was one of them. The other one was we had an individual that was here right when we had just opened, and we had to open, and some of the things weren't completely done yet. Open under construction. So we had some roof issues we were fixing. There was one over in the corner. And so they took like a picture of like it was a rainy day and some water dripping down in the corner on one of the fields. Both of them 1-star reviews. We handled both very differently. Mm-hmm. So in one case, both were learning experiences for us though. And I think that's where our blunt force fact comes in. Mm-hmm. Like you learn a lot when you're forced into a situation like this where you're like, all right, we're going to, how are we going to address this? So for the racist comment, we talked about it. We're like, all right, how do we want to handle this? Is there anything we can gain by getting this individual back in the fold? And at that point in time, we made the determination that sort of clientele that would do that, like we knew what she was saying was so far from the truth, but it was just a way to make us, that you say these keywords, we're going to make you look really bad. And we felt at that point that best bet was to sever that relationship. So because they had said the words they said, we leveraged Google and said, hey, this is slanderous and blah, blah, blah. And because it had that word in it, they looked at it. Yeah. And so they removed it. Right. So in that case, we just got it removed.
Yeah.
In the other case, where it was someone, now, did they have to take a video of dripping water and put it? No, but they did. And as much as it hurt, I was like, okay, that clearly is something that bothered them and it made us look bad. So what we did in that case was on the Google review, we thanked them. And we're like, hey, really appreciate you pointing that out. We are actively looking for those spaces to fix since we took over ownership. We got this. We've got it on our. What we just like. We went into the whole thing about what we plan. How we plan to fix it right away, and then we called them.
Right.
And we're like, hey, because they did not do it anonymously, which was that was the other thing too. Actually, the other review was like like they created a fake account.
Right.
Which is always an indication.
Yeah.
But for that one, we really engaged. And the end result of that was that person was coming here every week for their kid, and they became a huge fan of ours.
Right.
Because they felt heard.
Yep.
Like, and then and we asked them, like, hey, when you come back in, will you just check in with us, please? I just want to, like, this stuff's important to us. And it ended up being, so a couple months later, 5-star review. Right? 5-star review. Hey, looks like, we're back here again. Completed construction. Place is looking great. Blah, blah, blah. Turned a 1 into a 5. Right? Through just accepting the fact that even though it's painful, a lot of times there's something you can learn.
Right.
And anyone who's willing to go that step, right? That isn't just doing it because they're, whatever, they're mad. And like the first example is also willing to go that step to write you the 5-star review.
Right.
And is very vocal about what they think. So what a great person to have in the community chirping.
You're leveraging a one of the few actively loud customers, right? Because most customers are going to be quiet. They're not going to talk about, by far, the most. I mean, there's the squeaky wheels are going to talk. So if you can turn that one into a positive, obviously that's a big deal. And the things that you said, which resonate with me, are the things that I have to advise my clients when they get a complaint, and things I try and do as well for the few complaints I receive. Mm-hmm. Are, they start off with just kind of listening, give the person the benefit of the doubt, right? And like treat them like a person, right? I think a lot of it is swallowing your pride as a business owner, and I didn't include that in what I was going to talk about, but like that's a big part of it, is like just this idea of like, look, like you don't know why they're upset really. Is it because we did something wrong? Is it because did we screw up? Sometimes a business is not going to admit, hey, we did something wrong here. We could have done something better, right? So you got to swallow your pride and listen to the customer and figure, okay, here, like, what do you think? Why do you feel the way that you feel? And sometimes that's it. Sometimes just the listening is it, right? Give the person the benefit of the doubt. hear them out. Now they feel heard. Now they get a good sense of, that's all they needed to do. And it could be that something went wrong. It could just be they had a shitty week at work.
Right.
Right. It could be like something else pissed them off. And just by giving them the opportunity, now they have a chance to kind of think it over. I'm sorry. My kid was freaking yelling at me and I wanted to slap him across the face. And instead I complained about your business. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
So you give them the opportunity to come back. But the other thing that you roundabout explained that you did is your outreach wasn't hey, like you did a bunch of things wrong. You know what I mean? Like, hey, like, we told you we told you we were under construction. Like you came in here willingly. Like it wasn't that.
Right.
Right. It was like a positive. And what you did as well is like, your response was, we'd like to, come in and talk to us. That was your response. Mm-hmm. It wasn't, well, you were wrong about this. You were wrong about that on freaking Google for everybody to see. And that's a big part of it as well, I think, is just for Google in particular. I don't want to necessarily just make this all about Google, but like a big part of it is just like all this stuff is outward. So can you give a positive outward response? You know what I mean? I don't know if have you ever had like a Better Business Bureau issue?
No.
So these are similar, right? Where someone will complain about your business.
Yeah.
And then you have the opportunity to respond on the Better Business Bureau website. And if you go to Better Business Bureau complaints, there's two worst things you can see. One is no response, right? Because that will be an indication like, hey, they just, they don't really care about the customer. But two is the piss and vinegar response. We did everything right, you did everything wrong.
Right.
Like,
right.
Why are you complaining about this, that kind of thing? Like you were unreasonable. You want to be professional and courteous.
Right.
And listen.
Yeah.
I think it's the first steps.
I'm a business owner. I have a million things to do. Letting these things go unanswered. So as we're talking through this, you might be thinking, yeah, that makes perfect sense. But I think here's where the gap is. Are you monitoring your Google profile?
Right.
Number one, and what the reviews are saying.
Or you're just online, right? Not just Google. Yelp, TripAdvisor, freaking anything. Better Business Bureau.
Right. Monitoring yourself is like the first step of this. So I think what's really important for our customers and our clients to start doing is, all right, on your schedule, always goes back to the schedule. Do you have a block in there once a month where you just go through your profiles and see if there's anything you need to respond to? So we're not leaving things unanswered.
Right.
Because if the minute we leave them unanswered, then they look.
Exactly. The next person does a look and they see the complaint. And, 'cause we've talked about this before a ton of times. What are you looking for? You're looking for you see the 1,000 Amazon 5-star reviews. Mm-hmm. You're looking for the complaint. Looking for the one that's not 5 stars. Why did they say it wasn't 5 stars? That's the one you're looking for.
It's funny how we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think
your customers are going to do that.
Yeah. So if you can add to that, if you can add to what you just talked about, a response plan, right, that you build out and sort of say, here's the official kind of canned response that we're going to put out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
When somebody does this, for me, it's something to the effect of, not that we're sorry that we did something wrong, but we're sorry you didn't have a great experience. That's not what we're about. We hope everybody has a great experience, and we'd love for you to contact us. Here's the business owner's phone number, and put it public, right? So now it's on them. You know, it's like we're giving you the opportunity.
Yeah.
And then number two, what's kind of the follow up plan with the customer? Like, because online reviews can be tough because sometimes you don't know who that person was. Right. Sometimes you can figure it out pretty quickly. Yeah. So what's the plan in house? Like, how are we going to get in touch with them? Who's going to get in touch with them? It's almost like a PR. It's almost like you're doing PR, right? There's like disaster relief. Like I worked in substance abuse treatment, and like the sad part about substance abuse treatment is no matter what you do positively, people are going to die. So that's obviously like a potential negative for your substance abuse treatment center. Mm-hmm. So we had a PR company with a disaster plan. Basically, it's like, all right, well, if somebody dies, what's our course of action here? How do we go public with it? What do we say? I mean, who do we talk to? Who are the publications we have to get out to? Same thing for your business. A customer complaint comes in. What's our response plan here? How do we get in touch with that person? If they're in our system, great. If they're not, then we're just doing the public thing and we're hoping it goes away, or we're hoping nothing comes of it. But
that's interesting.
That's the starting part.
That's an interesting one.
What's an interesting one?
I never really thought about that. I never really thought about kind of like a PR campaign for those sort of industries. Yeah. And how important that really is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think it'd have to be important for anything. I mean, imagine if you're a property owner, right? You deal in property, but you're not dealing with it in Florida. Imagine how important it would be to have
Right.
a plan for communicating with people in an area where you're at risk of storms or something like that. You know what I mean? Because you don't want to think people that think that you're a bad owner.
Yeah.
Right. You want to have a plan okay, well, you want to have, especially if you're doing well, right? Because PR companies are expensive. You have well, so it's so when the news reaches out, you're ready to go and hey, I'm Brian LaFauci. I'm in charge of these properties. You know what I mean? We want everybody to know that. Hope everybody's safe. We want everybody to do what they can. And just think about how that turns the L into a win, right? Having the public facing response, being ready for it.
I like it. I like it.
But the other part was what you said more was
I told a long story, so I'm letting you kind of go with this.
Now can we learn from it?
Yes.
Right now, what are our internal processes here to say, okay, well, again, swallowing your pride.
Right.
Even if we didn't do anything wrong, what can we do to prevent this situation in the future?
I think that's the biggest thing. Now the systems for our listeners to learn are: one, have a system to stay on top of it.
Yep.
Two, have a protocol to address it. And then three, implement an internal system to prevent it next time. And if you take those 3 steps, and they don't take a lot of time, but you got to get them where, Patrick? Where do you got to put them?
I don't know. On the pedestal? In your back pocket?
Not
Into the blunt zone?
Into the blunt. On the calendar. You got to put them on the calendar. It always comes back to the calendar. You got to put them on the calendar. And if you get them on the calendar, then it's a way to ensure they happen.
Right. All right. So last piece.
Go ahead.
What can we do to make money from it?
How to monetize it.
Yeah. How do we monetize? And can you have a solution where, and I have done this in the past, where it's not necessarily a complaint, where service isn't going great and you can kind of tell. You can kind of tell, all right, well, this customer is not getting what they want out of my service. Do I have another service I can give them? Maybe give them a little bit of a discount on the front end, or maybe give them a free month or whatever it is, where I know they will get what they want, but it will eventually make me money.
Yeah.
But if you go through these processes, listen, respond professionally,
and then turn them on the
turn
end
it
onto
into
a product
exactly
that better suits where their needs are.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then now they're now they're really your 5-star shouting customer, because now they're having a really positive experience.
Like in our sport complex, we needed the luxury VIP boxes. I know your experience there wasn't so good. Can we upgrade you to our luxury VIP box?
But companies do that all the time.
Of course they do.
They do that all the time. How do you turn it into? Let's treat you like a king.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, they're getting more money from you.
Right.
And that ultimately, that's what we need to do. Is we need to see how can we turn this not just into an opportunity to improve our business. How can I actually improve our business, revenue wise?
Well, you can also do similar to what you're saying. You can expose them to a product or service free of charge that when the free of charge time period ends, they're most likely going to renew because it's really good, right?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we could do here was someone had a bad experience. So hey, we knew they had kids because almost everyone that came here had kids, and kids were playing our stuff. We could say, and if they were adults, we would take a different approach. So if they were kids, we're like, hey, listen, here's 50% off a birthday party package. We don't ever do it, but if you ever want to do a birthday party, they start here half off. Like, oh, thanks, you know. Or if it was adults, here's a voucher for 4 sandwiches and a pitcher of beer up at the pub. Yeah. Right? Now you get them to come up here and they'll probably spend double.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. Restaurants do that all the time. They'll be like, your next meal's on us.
Right.
Oh, that means you're coming back in.
It sucked. Here's more food.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Here's more shitty
Here's
food.
another one. Yeah, exactly.
And everyone's like, oh, great. I got to go back get more shitty
exactly.
food.
Yeah. So now you're just instead of leaving that place and not being a customer anymore, now you're a customer for life.
Right.
One of the things I did, and I don't want to, we'll end it soon.
Yeah.
One of the things I did, and I was talking about the fact that I don't get complaints. Obviously, I've gotten a complaint or two. But in this case, I offered them a really low service. It was like a low-level service. But because ownership was changing, I did some things for them which were above and beyond.
Yeah.
But then they were like, well, hey, you're not being responsive to this. And I was like, hey, this is in my head. I'm like, I did this as a freaking favor. Like, none of this is in the contract. Like, I decided to do this out of the kindness of my heart. And now you're holding me responsible for it.
Right.
Instead, I scheduled a meeting. I created a whole business audit, and I went in there saying, I asked them what they were frustrated about, listened. Mm-hmm. So I said, okay, here's what we're going to do to kind of fix some of this, right? So it's like, let's make sure this is all set up so it's exactly how you guys want it, right? It's like, in this case, was their email addresses. Like, get rid of the ones that you guys don't want. We're going to add the ones that you do want. We're going to make sure that the person who needs to access them can access them. I'm going to work with them and make sure they do that. But in the meantime, I had this whole business audit set up. So like I was able to kind of talk to them about their business a little bit. I used the complaint as an opportunity to talk about their business. And now they're on a retainer.
Right.
Right. For way better services.
Right.
Because I was able to kind of convince them of my authority, but also like my customer service. Right. I'm there. Like the people they're working with weren't local. Mm-hmm. Like I'm like, right, I'm sitting in here with you. We're going to work together. Like I like the fact that you're like local and you came in. You know, so the fact that I was dealing, in this case, I wasn't dealing with a complaint, but I was dealing with a less than positive experience.
Right.
And I turned it into a long-term relationship.
They're the best things you can do. And like I said, those people that are loudest, we want to get them. We want the fans that are cheering loudest in the stadium to be cheering for our team.
Exactly. There you go. That's good.
And if they're
it's a blunt force factor right there.
And if they're cheering for the other team, sometimes we just got to let them see why we're the better team to be playing for.
Listen, respond professionally, have a plan, and then upsell.
Everyone just wants to be heard.
Rinse, wash, and repeat.
That's it. Blunt force facts. You don't learn anything when you're winning.
Awesome.
I'm Brian LaFauci.
Patrick Marino.
Till next time.
Thank you.